Seeing we have quorum in the room, I would like to call our board meeting of 29 April 2025 back to order. Acknowledging that our meeting this evening is taking place on the unceded and unsurrendered ancestral homelands of the Algonquin Nation. And I would like to acknowledge and thank the Algonquin people for their stewardship of these lands since time immemorial and for sharing so many of their teachings with us. Are there any declarations to be declared in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? Seeing none, I would now like to move to the report from Committee of the Whole in camera. Vice Chair Milburn.
The committee, the Board of Trustees met in a private session this evening, and there were no recommendations from the private session.
Thank you for that report. Which brings us to item 7 on our agenda, approval of the agenda. Do we have a mover? Trustee Nash, seconded by Trustee Dixon. Is there any discussion on the agenda? And seeing none, I will call the question on the agenda as presented. All those in favor and opposed, and that motion is carried. I will now provide my briefing for this evening and tell everyone that Queen Mary Street Public School recently hosted a successful community partnership event offering families the chance to learn about local programs and services. This event was supported by the School Council's Parents Reaching Out grant, and it was presented in partnership with the OCDSB's Student Achievement Through Equity, or SATE department. More than 50 parents and caregivers attended the event, featuring presentations from a dozen community organizations, including Ottawa Public Health, the City of Ottawa, the National Arts Centre, and the Parent Resource Centre. For more School Council information and news, please visit the School Council page on our website. And next, a few reminders. First, registration is open for the summer language classes and camps for students in kindergarten to grade 8. This is open to students from all school boards. Virtual options are also available for the language classes. And second, registration for the 2025 summer school programs is also open. Continuing education offers a variety of in-person and virtual programs, including secondary credit programs for grade 8 to 12 students, programs for adult learners, and remedial programs for grades 6 to 8 students. Again, the details are available on our website and have also been shared in our email updates to members of the OCDSB community. And that concludes my briefing. Are there any questions? Seeing none, then we will move on to the director's briefing.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to begin this year, but that Mental Health Week will take place next week from May 5th through to the 11th. The Canadian Mental Health Association's theme is Unmasking Mental Health. The OCDSB's mental health team has compiled activities and links to help support and focus on how we can challenge the stigma and create a more supportive community where everyone feels safe to be themselves. We hope these resources inspire you to think about how we can all contribute to a community where we see each other fully and support each other's mental health and wellness. Details have been sent in the previous updates and are now also available on the mental health page on the OCDSB website. There are also some upcoming events supporting mental health. School Mental Health Ontario's By Your Side, a free webinar series, continues until June the 4th. This series is designed to help parents and caregivers navigate important topics related to substance abuse and addictive behaviors. And on May 3rd, from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m., the Rotary Club of West Ottawa is hosting Prepared and Positive, an in-person mental health forum for parents and guardians at St. Paul University. participate in the breakout sessions, and interact with experts on topics regarding the mental health of your children and youth and your role as a parent or caregiver. Details are also available on our website and have been shared in our updates as well. As an additional point for today's briefing, I'd like to speak to the financial investigation of the district announced by the Ministry of Education last week related to ongoing structural deficits faced by the organization. To begin, I'd like to share that the notice of the third-party investigation did not come as a surprise to staff. In fact, staff has been working collaboratively with ministry representatives of finance on an ongoing and monthly basis during the course of the current school year in order to address these fiscal matters. The deficits represent, from my perspective as Director of Education, a balance of both internal actions and external advocacy as a large, complex institution of public education. Internal actions, including the sensible sizing of our central departments through a careful reduction in discretionary positions, for example, in addition to other thoughtful reductions that are non-staff related, as well as the streamlining of programs and/or services offered system-wide, as is taking place through the program review at the elementary level. External advocacy includes bringing forward to the ministry's attention the differential between the funding for various aspects such as sick leave or replacement worker costs and statutory benefits for staff and the realities of the actual costs for these expenditures of the organization, the delta between funding for retroactive pay related to recent settlements and the actuals for these collectively bargained agreements, as well as the impact on optimization of the organization's properties as a result of the moratorium on school closures, for instance. I wish to share as a concluding commentary that the staff takes accountability and transparency of its fiscal situation seriously, along with that of the Board of Trustees, of course, and is committed to working collaboratively with a third-party investigator that is to be appointed. That ends my briefing. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Director. Are there any questions for the Director? Trustee Lyra?
Thank you. I have some questions about the supervision that the ministry has put us under. You said that the staff have been working with the ministry over the last number of months. Can you go into a little bit more detail about what that has looked like?
Certainly, just a point of clarification, and I will turn it over to Associate Director Giroir for a comment from a Chief Financial Officer perspective. First, it's important to clarify the district is not under supervision with respect to the investigation. This announcement by the Minister of Education is really simply to have a look, as the district has had successive years of deficits that we've brought forward. So it's not supervision in the context of what may be taking place in other districts. Just wanted to make that point of clarification. Then I will turn it over to our CFO just for a commentary in terms of the nature of the investigation and the ongoing monthly check-in, so to speak, with representatives of the ministry.
Through you, Chair. Yeah, so it's enhanced reporting. So we moved from the regular reporting submissions to monthly reporting submissions with the ministry, and then we work through those forecasts so they watch and monitor our trends the same as we do to make sure that the reports that we are submitting are accurate.
Okay. The reports, you said that we have to make sure that the reports that we are submitting are accurate. Is there any indication from the ministry so far that what we have been doing to get back in track is not going to be enough?
Through you, Chair, no, I have no indications from the ministry that any of the actions that we've taken would not be enough. Although we are not currently forecasted to have a balanced budget for this year, which is where we started the year. So, you know, from a ministry perspective, they would like to see us in a balanced budget position.
Okay. The ministry has been dilatory in releasing the white papers, the documents that allow us to create estimates for our budget. Is there any indication that they are going to be providing those documents to us in a more timely manner?
Through you, Chair, there's no indication that they're going to change the cycle on when they provide the technical papers to the boards. It's part of the budget cycle of the province. So until they receive their budget from the province, they can't then create the technical papers for release for the boards to do their individual budgets.
I see. I'd like to speak for a minute about the intersection between the supervision, our budgetary issues, and the program review. We have had a number of people over the last number of months come to us and say, are we doing this program review because of budgetary concerns? And the answer that we have been told is that we are not doing this for budgetary reasons. But it seems like the answer that has been given to the ministry and to the media now that we are being viewed with additional scrutiny is that this program review is going to save us money. And I wonder if you can reconcile what seem to be two different perspectives on whether or not this is being done for budgetary reasons.
Certainly, through you, Madam Chair, appreciate the question from Trustee Lyra. As a point of clarification, and I repeat this, I have in the past, that the work of the program review does not impact the upcoming school year. It's for the following school year. So there is a temporal difference between the work that's happening in the current annual budgetary process and the program review at the elementary level. The program review at the elementary level does address structural elements of our organization. Less so around the annual budgetary process, but the way in which the organization is structured in the programs and/or services is offered. And that's part of what the Ministry of Education is asking us as a district to look at in the programs we offer and the services we offer. So much as our briefing as a district held, this for us is about ongoing structural deficits.
Okay. One last question. You spoke, or sorry, my apologies. The chair spoke a moment ago about the good work that is being done by our Student Achievement Through Equity program and the event that happened at Queen Mary. What is that program going to look like next year with the cuts that have been proposed?
Through you, Madam Chair, I want to be clear again in a point of clarification that the Student Achievement Through Equity is not a program. It is an inquiry. An inquiry is a question or a wondering. It's an exploration that has a finite time. You inquire on a certain aspect, a wondering in your professional capacity, gain information related to that wondering in the hopes of then turning that inquiry into action at a systemic level. It's not an inquiry indefinitely that lasts forever and ever, that you just keep inquiring. And so SATE is an inquiry. It's not a program. What staff will look to do in the integration of our coaching model is to gain the learnings, the promising practices, the strategic supports for our system and amplify that through the integrated coach model, and yet keep elements of that inquiry, including the FACE coordination, the family and community engagement aspects that weren't part of the regular coaching model in place. So again, we'll take the best of the learning through SATE as an inquiry and integrate it across the system. But staff is looking to keep, and ultimately over time, our hopes is to expand the work of FACE, as that was not an integrated part of our thinking pre the inquiry and has been one of the key elements of the learning that we've garnered to date.
I see. I am quite disappointed that it seems poverty work is where our cuts are landing.
Moving on, we also have a question from Trustee Blackburn.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you. So 3 weeks ago today, something occurred in this boardroom that was of great concern to many members of our community, including our families, our caregivers, our parents, our students, and other members of the community. As a result of what happened that night, we have been inundated with emails about it. That was 3 weeks ago. As of yet, to my knowledge, the leadership of our district has not provided a response. If my memory serves me correctly, I asked 2 questions on October 8th. There was further interventions by other trustees and members, and the Director of Education indicated that he would report back to the community. So my question is the director going to keep his word and report back to the community? And are the concerns that I can't even remember. I've lost count of how many emails. By far the most amount of emails I've gotten since I've been a trustee, bar none.
Point of order. I don't know if this is a question about the director's report.
This is, I was about to make that note that this does not directly relate to the director's report. and was going to be raised in another part of the meeting. But since the question has been voiced at this point in time, I will ask the director if he could please respond now instead of later in the meeting.
Through you, Madam Chair, thanks, Trustee Blackburn, for an important comment. A couple of comments that I have to make, just as points of clarification. The current context we're in, as we were on the 15th of April and the 8th of April, is not a staff meeting. It is a board meeting. Staff is here to respond to questions. Staff made no comment that evening, had no agenda item of any nature or sort. And I want to make that point clear, as I've been asked by numerous interest holders to make a comment on an item I did not have on the agenda. And I want to make that clear, neither did any of my staff. Having said all of that, to clarify the item that was brought forward that evening, there is no policy or procedure within the district that prevents the wearing of a keffiyeh by our student, staff, or school communities. There's an understanding by staff as part of our expression of identity that it is a garment, a clothing that is a symbol of a cultural expression, and so be that. I want to acknowledge that publicly. I also want to recognize that at times there is harm caused by some comments made, and wanted to make that clarification here this evening that the district does not have any documentation, protocol, or as mentioned, policy or procedure otherwise, as an important clarification for our Palestinian, Arab, and Muslim communities, as well as our broader communities in general. So I do raise that as a point of clarification with respect to the query that was brought forward that evening. And I will share as well as a point of note that it was my intention to clarify that on the 15th of April, our very next board meeting. We unfortunately had a very busy night and called a vote to close the meeting, which didn't provide a wrap-up opportunity when I intended to. So I appreciate Trustees Blackburn's point that it's a couple of weeks in delay. It was my intention to do so on the 15th of April and just didn't have the opportunity. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And I would add that the expectation would be, because this is really business that is arising from the report from the Committee of the Whole meeting on 8th of April, that is where we would have been dealing with it this evening. Are there any other questions for the director? And I'm seeing none. So thank you, Director. And we move on. We have no delegations this evening. But we do have some board minutes that require to be confirmed, beginning with the minutes of the special board meeting that was held on the 19th of March, 2025. Do we have a mover to confirm this set of minutes? Trustee Dixon, seconded by Trustee Lyra. Are there any errors or omissions in this set of minutes? And seeing none, I'll call the question on confirmation of the minutes of special board on 19th of March. All those in favor and opposed, motion is carried. We also have before us the minutes of the board meeting held on 25 March 2025. Do we have a mover for this set of board minutes? Trustee Jenkins, seconded by Trustee Nash. And again, are there any errors or omissions in this set of minutes? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of confirming the minutes of the board meeting of 25 March? And opposed? And the motion is carried. Is there any business arising from either of those sets of board minutes? And I am not seeing any. So we will move on then to matters for action. And I will call upon Trustee Milburn with regards to the 8th of April 2025 Committee of the Whole report. Vice Chair Milburn.
I will now move receipt of the April 8th, 2025 Committee of the Whole report.
Is there a seconder? Trustee Dixon, thank you. Go ahead, Trustee Milburn. Oh, sorry. Are there any errors or omissions? In that case, I'll call the question on receipt. All those in favor and opposed, motion is carried. Go ahead.
On a motion by Trustee Dixon, which I will second, that the Director of Education shall ensure that the next report or update delivered to the board regarding the district's Indigenous Equity and Human Rights Roadmap includes a specific reference to how the district is implementing the requirements of the Ministry of Education's policy/program, Memorandum 119, developing and implementing equity and inclusive education policies in Ontario schools, and that if no report on the roadmap is delivered before September 30th, 2025, the Director of Education shall ensure that a specific update on the implementation of PPM 119 is provided to the board no later than September 30th, 2025.
Thank you. Is this a consent item? And I am seeing no objection, so we will vote on that when we get to item, when we finish the receipt of 13.3. So next, I will call upon Trustee Presley, please, to move receipt of the 10th of April, 2025 Policy Review Committee report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, I will now move receipt of the 10th of April, 2025 Policy Review Committee report.
And do we have a seconder for that? Trustee Fury, thank you. Or sorry, Forty. Are there any errors or omissions in this report? And seeing none, all those in favor and opposed, motion is carried. Back to you, Trustee Presley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, on a motion by Trustee Lyra, which I will second, that the proposed merger of policies P.030.CUR and P.031 curriculum attached as Appendix A to Report 25-012 be approved as amended.
Thank you for that. And I would note that there is supplemental information that has been provided in memo 25-020 regarding approval of this this merger of policies. That was provided for information. And I will ask if this particular motion is a consent item, and I'm seeing it is not. So we will deal with it when we reach 13.4. Trustee Presley?
Thank you. On a motion by Trustee Lyra, which I will second, that policy P.082.HR, selection, training, placement, and the appraisal of staff for the positions of principal and vice principal attached as Appendix A to Report 25-021 be rescinded.
And is this a consent item? And I'm seeing no objection, so we will deal with this along with the other consent item that we have when we reach that point. And is that all the recommendations in your report?
I do have one further recommendation, Madam Chair. So that is on a motion by Trustee Blackburn, which I will second, that A, the proposed revision to policy P.128.gov, access to the information and privacy protection attached as Appendix A to Report 25-011 be approved, and B, the standing policy P.093.SCO, confidential communication between students and staff attached as Appendix C to Report 25-011 be rescinded.
And is this a consent item? And I am seeing that this is a consent item. And does that conclude your report then?
Yes, it does, Madam Chair. Thank you. Through you.
Thank you. And next we will go back to Vice Chair Milburn with regard to the 15th of April, 2025 Committee of the Whole report.
I will now move receipt of April 15th, 2025 Committee of the Whole report.
And do we have a seconder for that motion? Trustee Jenkins, thank you. Are there any errors or omissions in this report? And seeing none, on receipt, all those in favor? And those opposed? And the report is received, and there were no recommendations in that report, as I recall.
There were no recommendations.
Thank you. So we do have several non-consent items here, beginning with the one from Committee of the Whole on the 8th of April, and also two of the recommendations from the Policy Review Committee. So if we could take the vote on those three motions now. If Manager Gatley will open the vote, please.
Bell in favor. Unfortunately, I don't have my e-scribe with me.
Thank you. And we have a result, which is 11 in favor, none opposed. So the motion is carried. And that brings us to the non-consent items. And just going back to the recommendation. Regarding the proposed merger of the learning resources policies. It was not a consent item, and since Trustee Lyra was the mover, I will call upon Trustee Lyra to introduce it, reminding that we have 5 minutes of speaking time. We're in board, we speak once to the motion, and if we can have the timer visible, that would be helpful.
Chair.
Go ahead, Trustee Lyra.
Sorry, Chair. Over here.
Yes.
Given that we are only able to have one opportunity to speak before Trustee Lyra speaks, I thought I'd remind you that there also needs to be an amendment to this motion in order to procedurally move forward correctly. The amendment should be not only to have the merger, but the indirect rescission of the policy that's not, the policy number that's not going to be included. So policy P030 is the one that has been merged, meaning that the other policy, I can't remember the number off the top of my head now, P031 needs to be rescinded if the merger is approved. I hope that was clear. Sorry, I should have had that written out in my head before I spoke.
Would you like to comment then on the supplemental information before we have the motion introduced?
I'm not sure. I don't have the supplemental information in front of me. So if that's what the supplemental information indicates, then that's fine. Sorry, I wasn't aware of which supplemental information you were referring to earlier.
And that recommended the addition of that policy P.031.CUR also be rescinded.
Thank you, Chair. That's fine.
So we're all good on that. So I will go back to you, Trustee Lyra.
Thanks. So I would like to move this recommendation, but I would like to move the two amendments that are outlined in the supplemental information. One, I'd like to...
Trustee Lyra, move the recommendation first,
Okay.
and then move each amendment separately, please.
I will move the recommendation. Now I'd like to move an amendment.
Yeah.
To remove, remove the word classroom in sections 3.1, 4.1, 4.2, 4.4, and the definitions section, as well as the title, as outlined in the supplemental information.
And the question is to the board, is this a friendly amendment? We need a seconder for it also. Trustee Dixon, thank you. So is this a friendly amendment? And I'm seeing that it is. So we will consider that motion incorporated, that amendment incorporated as friendly. Go ahead, please.
I would also like to amend the motion on the floor to include the rescission of policy 031.CUR, learning resources,
With the wording that is in
with
the
the wording
memo.
that's in the supplemental memo, yes.
And is there a seconder for that? Trustee Milburn, thank you. And is this a friendly amendment? And I'm seeing no objections, so we will consider that amendment incorporated as friendly. Anything further, Trustee Lyra?
Yes. Now that the housekeeping pieces are done, I am not going to be supporting this policy as it stands. My rationale was given at the committee. I am greatly concerned with the removal of a level of trustee oversight when it comes to learning resources in our schools and in our classrooms and in our libraries. There are people in society who will use whatever they can to pick on marginalized groups when it comes to things like sex education, LGBTQ content. And removing trustee oversight means that there is no longer an elected, publicly accountable body when it comes to appealing the inclusion or the rejection of learning resources in our schools and in our classrooms and in our libraries. And so I moved it to the committee because I wanted to raise this issue at the time. And the committee ultimately decided against including that level of staff oversight. I am going to move that we refer this back to the policy committee with instructions, specifically to include some level of trustee oversight in the appeals process.
And you recognize that in so doing, that implicitly includes the notion that the board itself is approving the inclusion of such a process.
I do, yes. That is what refer with instructions means.
And so that is the proposed procedural motion. And that needs to be seconded. Is there a seconder for that?
Banana?
And I'm not seeing that anyone is proposing to second the motion to refer.
Okay.
So it fails for want of a seconder.
All right. With my remaining time, I am going to say that I cannot support this in its current iteration because of my concern for a lack of public accountability in the appeals process. And I don't think I need to belabor the point any further. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion on this motion? And I'm seeing none. So back to you for wrap up, if any.
No.
In that case, the motion as amended, we will take the vote on that. And the motion that I'm seeing on the screen does not include the additional part. Well, the merger of the policies is as amended, but the rescission of the other policy was it should be an additional part, which is a part B. I think we've got the wording right now to incorporate the additional part to the motion. And if people could vote, please.
Bell in
And Trustee Bell, you got that she's in favor? And we have the result. The motion is carried. 9 in favor, 1 opposed, and 1 abstention. So that concludes our non-consent items. And we can move on then. To matters for discussion, or to the appointment. The appointments to the Ontario Public School Boards Association Board of Directors. And you have received the information on this from OPSPA. Everyone has had an opportunity to consider the OPSPA schedule and other information that has been provided in terms of the role. So I will open the floor. Trustee Blackburn.
I'd like to nominate Trustee Jenkins.
And is there a seconder for the nomination of Trustee Jenkins? And Trustee Jenkins, Trustee Dixon will second that. And do you accept the nomination, Trustee Jenkins?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Are there any other nominations? Trustee Milburn.
I would like to nominate Chair Scott.
And is there a seconder for that nomination? Trustee Nash, thank you. And yes, I would accept the nomination. Are there any other nominations? Trustee Blackburn.
I move to close nominations.
And is there a seconder for the motion to close nominations? Trustee Lee. And with that, it would appear that we just have to confirm the results because we have had Trustee Jenkins and myself acclaimed to the positions of directors for the coming year on the OPSPA Board of Directors. We have a draft motion there, which I think we should probably have moved on the floor and seconded. Trustee Milburn will move that, seconded by Trustee Lyra, that Trustees Jenkins and Scott be appointed as the 2 directors to the OPSPA Board of Directors, the voting and alternate delegates for the Eastern Regional Council meetings, and the voting and alternate delegates for the OPSPA annual general meeting for the 2025-2026 term of office. So all those in favor of that? And opposed? And that motion is carried, which does now bring us to the matters for discussion, beginning with the report from OSTA, if any. Trustee Lee.
None required.
And I would note that we also have a set of OSTA minutes from a previous meeting there for our information. And with regard to the report from the Ontario Public School Boards Association, Trustee Jenkins?
No public report this evening. Thank you.
No public report this evening. And I would note that there is a Board of Directors meeting coming up at the end of this week, at which we will be in attendance. The board work plan has again been updated. Trustee Lyra?
I have a quick question about the board work plan.
A question about the board work plan? Go ahead, please.
I noted that the literacy action plan did not have a target date, and we are very quickly running out of months. I was wondering if there was some indication of when we were going to be able to discuss that.
Mr. Director?
Through you, Madam Chair, a point noted by staff, will confirm and make sure on this next board meeting that it's updated. The timelines, we'll just work through the timing on that item.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on the board work plan? And I am seeing none. Moving on then We have no matters for information this evening, but we do have opportunities under new business. Trustee Nash.
Yes, and thank you, and through you, Chair. I want to address the demonstration that occurred last week near Broadview and Nepean High Schools, which specifically targeted the 2SL LGBTQ+ community. I want to reiterate my unwavering support for the 2SL LGBTQ+ community. I understand the distress and fear such events cause. Schools are places of learning and should not be used for political protests. Adults should never make children and youth feel threatened or intimidated. Protests intended to provoke students, staff, and families and/or community members to generate attention or social media traffic are completely unacceptable. The board and the OCDSB are deeply committed to ensuring a safe, respectful, and inclusive learning environment for all. We are dedicated to protecting the well-being of every student and staff member, and we will continue to work diligently to uphold these values. I encourage anyone who has been affected to seek support from mental health services or support groups within the OCDSB. I want to be clear that I stand in full support of the 2SL LGBTQ+ community and do not condone these demonstrations near our schools.
Thank you very much for that. Well said. Is there any other new business? And I am seeing none, which brings us to the end of our agenda. And I declare this meeting of the board adjourned.